Redditors who learned a second language. What was your holy cow I'm fluent now moment? I didn't really have that moment. I learned English mainly through watching videos on the internet. Whenever I didn't understand a word I'd just ask someone. I don't remember a specific moment or anything. I just remember one time I couldn't pronounce the difference between dog and duck. And when I got more contact with the internet about 2 years later, I was watching 20-minute Minecraft videos on YouTube with no difficulty understanding them whatsoever. It might have been because I was quite young. I speak only very loose Spanish, but one time in Walmart a guy was yammering in Spanish to a poor clerk who clearly couldn't keep up with what he was saying. I asked, in Spanish, if he had a problem. Among the mile-a-minute Spanish I picked out enough to realize he was going to his niece's birthday, and we were in the card aisle. I asked him how old she was and gave him a Dora the Explorer card for that age. He tried to give me a 20 but I wouldn't take it. When I started to actually understand what they were saying, instead of guessing based on the words I knew and what happened. When a train announcement was made in French, then English, I realized when the English announcement was made that I didn't even notice that the first one was in French. I understood it without having to think about it. When I started thinking and dreaming in that language, and when I started forgetting how to phrase some things in my maternal language. Try out studying abroad. Half a year and I forgot all the simple words you would never expect to ever forget up until the moment you want someone to hand you the whipped cream or some such. When I started thinking in English too, it's really weird to say that you think in a mixture of multiple languages but my mind just goed along with it. Went. My grandma could speak fluent Spanish and my dad learned it for work. I can speak Spanish perfectly so long as I'm high as frick. No, seriously. I was walking home from the smoke shop one day practicing what I would say to my conservative family in Colombia about my hair being long when it dawned on me there wasn't a single word I didn't know in what I was saying. And moreover, I was easily saying it, and when I was sober again suddenly I had difficulty speaking Spanish. At least a dozen Americans I've met were convinced my accent was specifically from Colorado. I've never even been to the US lol. That's really weird because Colorado is known to have a very neutral American accent, which is why we get put on the radio a lot. I think it was when I stopped using subtitles for movie series. Before that I had switched from Swedish subtitles to English ones, but felt that I relied too much on the subtitles and wanted to see how well I fared without them. I had to really pay attention at first, and felt like the characters talked even faster than usual, but it didn't take long before I got used to it, and that's when I had that feeling. Now I'm so used to English that I have to look up the Swedish equivalents of words I know in English, but have forgotten in Swedish, and many times the English word of something pops up before the Swedish one, so yeah, I end up typing a lot of Swenglish whenever I use Swedish nowadays. I need English subtitles when watching English movies, but I also need Swedish subtitles when watching Swedish movies. Maybe I'm just hearing impaired lol. People asking what age I learned Greek. Was born in an English speaking country and grew up here but lived with my grandparents who didn't know a word of English so I only spoke Greek until starting primary school. Riding a train south of Munich, Germany, with my mountain bike. So I was not in the passenger area. Older man comes out to smoke and we start with typical small talk. I'm a large guy so that generally breaks the ice. Friend steps out and asks which stop we are getting off at. I tell him, oh, sorry, I did forget to tell you. Bernau. 2 more stops, I think. Friend goes back in. German man compliments my English. The impressive thing here is being able to converse with someone from Bavaria. I'm hearing. I studied ASL for 2 grueling years. Stopped at a red light one day, saw a homeless guy on the side of the street with a sign that said, in addition to asking for help, I can't hear you. I'm deaf. On impulse I signed through my windshield. Hi, do you sign? He got super excited and signed back, yes I sign. Side note, one of the perks of being deaf or participating in deaf culture is you can talk perfectly clearly through a wall, from 100 yards away, or even underwater if you can see each other. I pulled over to the nearest parking lot and walked over. As I was approaching him, I was suddenly terrified because I realized I might not actually know as much as I thought I did, and he might be really disappointed. But I got over there and very timidly signed, "I'm hearing, but I learned ASL at my university. I am bad at signing. Go slow." He signed back, "Okay. I'm going to tell you a story now. My life story. I'll go slow." And he started off. He got excited and started to accelerate, but I could still understand him. We talked for over an hour and got some food. It was so freaking cool. I was able to talk to him and understand him, and he clearly hadn't gotten to speak to anybody in a while. Being deaf and homeless can be super freaking lonely. It was an amazing conversation, and it was also the first time I realized I was kinda fluent. My accent is still not so great, but I can hold a conversation. It takes forever for hearing folks to be actually good at signing. I saw him a few more times after that and we talked, but then he moved somewhere else and I haven't seen him since. I hope he's alright. TLDR. I'm hearing. I learned ASL. I ran into a homeless guy who was deaf. Turned out he could sign. We talked for a while and I realized I was fluent for a hearing person. Oh, I got this. I was in Germany about a year. I'd been taking intensive German courses, 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. I'm standing in the returns line at the German equivalent of a Best Buy and listening to the conversations of the other people waiting in line with me. It all started to filter in. Oh my god. Look at how dirty his shoes are. This line is taking forever. The worker must be retarded. This room is too bright. On and on and on. That's when I realized my German wife's complaint that Germans are a whiny, super critical, perpetually dissatisfied bunch was true. Germans are a whiny, super critical, perpetually dissatisfied bunch. It is absolutely true. Source: am German. Came to Canada in 2007 from Poland with no knowledge of English. Went straight to the 3rd grade. About 2 months later I had an assignment where I had to read a book and do a 15-minute book report on it. Got a level 4+. When I started making lists in my head in Irish, I'd be in the shower or something thinking about what I need to remember to buy from the shop or what I'm going to do with my day, get up, clean the kitchen, go for a run, remember to whatever etc. Also translating things without subtitles for my family. When I found myself successfully making puns, moved to Quebec with my French-Canadian wife, eventually found ourselves in a small town on a lake with a couple of kids and growing mastery of French. Our son was very close to a neighbor kid of the same age, family name Rochette, translates as Little Rock. So we were all down by the lake one night to watch the Canada Day fireworks. A good-sized crowd of kids and parents. Fun being had by all. My son and the younger Rochette started throwing pebbles into the water. Over time they progressed from small pebbles and bigger stones, caillouts or piers, to full-sized rocks, roches. So, I call out in my sternest father voice, "Lance pas les roches, don't throw the rocks." Pause for effect. "Lance les rochettes." The whole crowd burst out laughing, even his parents, and I was officially accepted into the community. En tant que Français, j'ai approuvé cette blague. When I was watching a YouTube video in English and realized that I understood everything, or when I was reading fanfictions and realized, again, that I don't need Google Translate anymore. Such a journey. I was 12 or 13 when I started to learn English as a second language and I didn't attend any private lessons. Now, I'm 17 and in some months I'll be taking one of the most serious language exams in the country. It's such a big boost to my very low self-esteem. I achieved this level by myself. Right now that I'm reading this without making any effort. Now that I think of it, it's been quite a long time so now I had difficulty understanding a book or movie in English. Holy cow, I'm fluent now. Also a poet and you didn't even know it. When I was doing a study abroad in southern Spain and I was on the phone with my mom. After about 10 minutes, she stopped me and told me I had switched from English to Spanish about 2 minutes prior. I hadn't even realized I was speaking Spanish seamlessly for over a minute to my mom, who spoke no Spanish at all. When I put down a book I was reading, went to the kitchen for a snack, and when I was coming back, I couldn't remember in what language the book was written on. I realized that it doesn't matter to my brain anymore. He just read it. Same here, but with it videos. At this point I'm just going along with it and just get it. Oftentimes, if I had to tell what language was spoken, I couldn't give an answer. After 40 pages there was a word I didn't know. That's when I realized the book I was reading was not in my native language. When I forgot to put subtitles on an Italian movie and didn't realize. First year of uni and my flatmate walks in and is like, "Dude, do you understand what they're saying?" Realized I did. Immediately texted my nonna. She was proud. English itself is actually my second language. When I read an entire book, it wasn't too big lol, and I actually understood what the book is about rather than guessing the meaning of words. I was like, dang, I guess I nailed it. When I read an entire book, it wasn't too big lol, and I actually understood what the book is about rather than guessing the meaning of words. I was like, dang, I guess I nailed it. Twist, the book was John dies at the end. Third language here, when I accidentally switched to a German TV channel and actually understood the general flow of the conversation. Randomly started talking to my mom in fluent Spanish, but when she talked fluent back I got very confused, then I realized I was speaking Spanish. When I could watch an Italian movie with Japanese subtitles and explain the plot better than my Italian friend. I don't speak Italian. Had a conversation late into a year-long exchange with a German. He has asked me where I was from and I said I was an exchange student, but I thought I had mentioned from America. He asked what country I went to. I wasn't sure what he meant, so I paused for a second and said I was an exchange student hanging with other exchange students. He asked again what country I went to. I said, Germany. He just stared and it took him a second. He thought I was a German just hanging with other exchange students from various countries since he thought I had been an exchange student to another country and returned to Germany. How then, like a week later, we were doing final rehearsals for a play at the gymnasium. High school I was at, and the drama professor pulled me aside and said, "Hey, your German is very good and you've learned a lot, but I need you to sound more American. Your accent has disappeared. So can you try to sound a little more like an American?" Those two happening near back to back had me feeling pretty good. I have completed my beginner's level of Korean. My classes for intermediate starts in a week, and sometimes when I'm practicing writing I get amazed by how I'm able to understand and read this completely alien language that consists of boxes and lines and strange circles. Example of what Korean looks like. It feels weird cause I am able to understand a completely new language that I had no connection with a year ago. It all looked like a mumbo jumbo, and once now I can read it and make sentences. Not fluent yet, but I am still proud of the progress I have made. I suspect that language is experiencing a surge in people trying to learn recently. For me it was when I was talking in my native language and found myself wanting to use a phrase word from my second language, as it was a better fit for what I was trying to say. 1. Thinking, dreaming and sleep talking in the foreign language. 2. As a native US English speaker, automatically unknowingly answering your American boyfriend now husband in German because that's the language in which you found the best way to answer him. Temporarily forgetting that he doesn't know much beyond a few words of German. 3. Going to the French-speaking part of Belgium sometime during the third year you have been living and working in Germany, and even after having completed a BA in French and living in Avignon, France, for 3 months, during college, and feeling that you have retained your French fluency, telling the taxi driver, "Zum aéroport," bitter instead of "à l'aéroport," s'il vous plaît, to the airport, please. 4. Muttering to a huge crowd of Germans at a Mexican airport, who are blocking the entire hallway you are trying to walk along. Ich blockiert den ganzen Weg und niemand kommt vorbei. Knowing full well that this is probably not the best way to say you're all blocking the entire hallway and no one can get through, but being confident enough in your German fluency to mutter nasty things to Germans on vacation anyway, and having several of them mutter angry responses back at you, never realizing you are not German. 5. Being asked for directions in Frankfurt am Main and giving them to the German person asking you and not getting any response besides Dankeschön. They don't tell you how good your German is or become suspicious because they can hear your foreign accent and maybe you're giving them incorrect directions, etc. They just thank you, like you're a native German person or something. My friend wants to be my boyfriend though I don't want to be in a relationship. His mother knows he likes me and told everyone at a family gathering, and whilst he was calling me and his grandmother comes along and asked him, in Russian, "Is this your little girlfriend? When do you think would be a good month for a wedding?" I would suggest April. All those flowers in England would be beautiful. She had no idea I spoke Russian. My friend, Mika, bursts out laughing, asking, "Did you hear that?" with me trying not to scream. I reply with a quiet, in Russian, "Yeah, every word." His family just looked in confusion. I had a conversation with 2 tourists who were my camping mates from Marseille. Their accent was a bit difficult and song why for me, for I was accustomed to a standard Parisian one from all the literature and audio visuals I consumed. After 2 days of laborious conversation, I got used to their accent and could understand them under influence of alcohol. That's when I knew I am fluent in French, if not yet mastered it. My family is pretty much all Spanish speaking. For a very long time, I couldn't communicate with some family members. I've gotten better over the years, well enough to have long conversations. However, the time I knew I was fluent was when I was speaking Spanglish. I was describing the plot of Beauty and the Beast and pretty much I said that a lot of the items served the beast. When I was talking about the dishes Ms. Potts and Chip, and I said yeah, I even lost trasts and everyone looked at me with shock and awe. Trasts in Latin American Spanish means dishes. In Jerusalem most store clerks speak 2 languages, Hebrew and English, because there are so many English speaking tourists. If they suspect your native language is English, they'll immediately flip to English as a courtesy and to make your interaction faster. So you know you're fluent in Hebrew when your Hebrew is strong enough that you can mumble your way through buying stuff like a native without the clerk switching out of Hebrew. Took me 8 months of living there before it happened for me. The thinking bit that has been pointed out a couple of times, although it was partially deliberate so I don't really count it. It was when I began forgetting phrases in my native language and was the only one genuinely laughing at my English teacher's jokes I began to realize what was going on. The breaking point was when someone asked me to translate something from English to my mother's tongue and I couldn't, because it wouldn't make sense. I lived in an island in Venezuela. I was at the beach with my sister and a guy comes up to me and asks me some questions and we ended chatting about the island and stuff to do and how red he were getting. British people are scary white. He offers to buy me a beer and while he is gone I ask my sister if she thinks he was flirting with me because he was cute. My sister tells me she had no idea because we were speaking English. I hadn't noticed until she told me. He was BTW. When you're watching something and you don't notice that it's actually in your second language. Also when you understand humor. I never quite had that moment because every time I start feeling comfortable I'll have a bad day and realize how badly I really speak. But there are milestones. My first milestone was when I actually understood the class I was in instead of just spacing out and waiting for it to be over. Another one was when I had to give a short 5-minute or so speech and I freaking nailed it. Or I thought so. It came out way better than I expected. Almost like the pressure made me perform better. I recently watched MFKZ and a lot of the music and the title card type things were in Spanish and I perfectly understood all of it. When my co-worker went and got me to talk to a customer that couldn't speak English. For the record, I don't think I'm fluent at all, but I'm at least conversational so I can usually get by. I did have a customer tell me how well I speak English, though, which is great because it's only my first language. Not me, but a friend of mine whose family hosted an exchange student once heard her German brother talking in his sleep. He was saying something about pictures. I think dreaming in a new language really shows a deep immersion. Immersion, thank you for saying that. Too often people think it's a prerequisite for being fluent or something. It just shows that you are immersed in that language. This moment never happened to me. I know that I am fluent but I have no idea when I became fluent. Never thought of it until this question either, so that's cool. When I took a taxi and when I arrived, Realized I'd had a 40-minute conversation with the driver about all kinds of stuff in Spanish without stressing out. It happened today. I'm learning NZ sign language and had a completely silent conversation about Avengers Endgame without even thinking about it. When my mind started automatically completing sentences said in movies, etc., based on the context of the scene, personality of the characters, things like that. That day when on a beach I had to talk to some Chinese guys who almost had their slippers stolen by the sea. My native language is Spanish, so I had to talk to them in English about the thing that just happened. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.